Carly Spencer had always been the kind of woman who refused to let anyone define her limits, not the men who underestimated her, not the institutions that dismissed her, and certainly not a man like Jack Brennan. But in her unrelenting pursuit of justice, or revenge, depending on who you asked, Carly was about to make the kind of mistake that would rip through her life like shrapnel. The world of General Hospital was already spinning under the weight of betrayals, secret alliances, and old debts, yet Carly's next move would threaten to destroy something far more personal than Brennan's empire: the trust of her own daughter. Jocelyn Jacks, the bright, ambitious young agent who had built a quiet reputation within the WSB, was unaware that her own mother was about to jeopardize everything she had worked for. For Carly, the revelation that Jocelyn was part of an organization she associated with secrecy, manipulation, and bloodshed was intolerable. The WSB had taken too much from too many, including Jason Morgan, and she refused to let them take her daughter too. But Carly's instinct to protect often came wrapped in destruction. The more she tried to shield Jocelyn, the more she risked becoming her greatest threat. Jason Morgan's revelation had set everything in motion. The moment he told Carly the truth about Jocelyn's work with the WSB, something inside her broke loose, a blend of fear and fury that would not be contained. She said nothing to her daughter, choosing silence over confrontation. Silence gave her power, a weapon she could sharpen against Brennan. He had wormed his way into the WSB's hierarchy with a mix of charm and ruthlessness, cloaking his ambitions under the guise of loyalty. To Carly, Brennan represented every manipulative man who had ever used power to control others, and now that she had the means to bring him down, she wasn't going to hesitate. She turned to Valentine Cassadine, not out of trust, but necessity. Valentine understood strategy, vengeance, and the art of self-preservation. Their alliance was uneasy, but calculated, a collision of ambition and fear wrapped in civility. What Carly didn't fully comprehend was that Brennan's world was far more interconnected than she realized, and the thread she was about to pull would not only unravel his plans but drag her daughter's name into the fire. Carly's scheme began quietly, like a storm forming beneath the horizon. She gathered intelligence, traced communication patterns, and leaked misinformation into channels designed to mislead Brennan's allies. Each move was surgical, designed to isolate him, expose his manipulations, and dismantle his credibility within the agency. But as she built her web of revenge, she didn't see the trap she was weaving around Jocelyn. Brennan was not a man who lost gracefully. He had built his influence on control and intimidation, and he would not allow Carly Spencer, a woman he once underestimated, to humiliate him publicly. When the first signs of exposure began to spread through the WSB corridors, Brennan understood immediately who was behind it. The pattern was too personal, too emotional. Carly's fingerprints were all over the chaos. Jocelyn, meanwhile, was thriving in her own right, ambitious, idealistic, and determined to prove herself. The WSB had become her identity, a place where she could separate herself from her family's volatile legacy. To her, the organization was not the monster her mother saw, it was a proving ground. But her name, her lineage, and her ties to Carly were liabilities that could never be fully erased. When whispers began circulating about internal leaks and classified breaches, the higher-ups started looking for scapegoats. And when Brennan's fury grew, Jocelyn's position suddenly became unstable. It was too convenient, too poetic, for Brennan not to exploit. If Carly wanted him destroyed, he would give her destruction, but he would make her watch it unfold through her daughter's downfall. The retaliation was swift. Files were manipulated, reports rewritten, and anonymous accusations began to circulate that Jocelyn had mishandled sensitive operations. Brennan didn't need to fire her himself, he simply needed to set the narrative. A young agent, connected to a woman known for manipulation, leaking intelligence to outside parties. It was a story the WSB hierarchy would believe. Carly, oblivious to the speed of his revenge, continued her plan with single-minded intensity, unaware that each move she made was fueling the case against her daughter. Valentine warned her subtly that Brennan's reach was vast, but Carly dismissed it as exaggeration. Her hatred blinded her. She wanted Brennan crushed so badly that she couldn't see the collateral damage building in her own home. When the first signs of fallout reached Port Charles, it came not as a confrontation, but a silence that terrified Carly more than shouting ever could. Jocelyn stopped returning her calls. The whispers around town grew, the kind of gossip that seeps through every corner of the Quartermaine mansion, the hospital corridors, and the Metro Court. Jocelyn was under investigation. Carly had spent her life surviving chaos, but this was different. This was the kind of pain that didn't come from enemies, it came from the people she loved most turning away in betrayal and disappointment. She had believed that destroying Brennan would be an act of protection, a way to secure her daughter's future. Instead, she had given him a weapon that would break that future apart. In Brennan's world, vengeance was an art form. As he watched his empire crumble under Carly's exposure, he took solace in knowing that she was suffering too. He didn't need to touch her to hurt her, he only needed to destroy the one person she loved beyond reason. If Jocelyn's career fell apart, if her faith in her mother shattered, then Carly would know what true loss felt like. And Brennan wanted her to feel every second of it. But there was another layer to his motives, darker and more twisted. Some whispers suggested that Brennan's interest in Jocelyn went beyond revenge, that he had once viewed her as the next generation of WSB elite, someone he could mold and manipulate. Her fall from grace was, to him, not just punishment but poetic balance. The destruction spread like wildfire. Jocelyn's mentors turned distant, her assignments were revoked, and her access was stripped overnight. She didn't yet understand why. When she finally pieced together fragments of the truth, rumors linking her mother's interference to Brennan's exposure, the realization was devastating. To Jocelyn, it wasn't protection, it was betrayal. The mother who had taught her strength had also been the one who dismantled her life from the shadows. Carly tried to reach her, to explain, but the words meant nothing. For Jocelyn, the damage wasn't just professional, it was personal. The WSB had been her path to independence, to identity beyond being Carly's daughter. Now that was gone, erased by the same maternal instinct that claimed to love her. Jason, watching from the sidelines, understood the full gravity of what was happening. He had warned Carly that this path would end in blood and regret, but he also knew that Carly's will was unbreakable once set in motion. Now, he was left to pick up the fragments of two lives torn apart by vengeance. Valentine, too, began to pull away, sensing the danger of proximity. Brennan's counterstrike was ruthless, but it wasn't over. His fall from the WSB would not be quiet, he would drag everyone he could into the abyss with him. And Carly, for all her cunning, was still unprepared for the scale of destruction that would follow. In the aftermath, Port Charles became a battlefield of whispers and suspicion. The WSB's reputation was cracking, and Carly was caught in the crossfire of her own rebellion. Jocelyn's name was stained, her career dismantled, and her trust in her mother severed. Carly found herself isolated, an echo of every past mistake magnified in the eyes of the daughter she could no longer reach. Yet, in her mind, she had done what any mother would do, she had tried to protect her child. That twisted sense of righteousness was what made her both a hero and a villain in equal measure. But there's an ominous truth still lingering beneath the chaos: Brennan's downfall may not be complete. There are whispers that he left behind encrypted files, secrets that could shatter the WSB entirely if revealed. And those files might contain more than just agency secrets, they might hold the evidence linking Carly's entire operation to the internal scandal that ruined Jocelyn. If those files ever see daylight, Carly won't just lose her daughter's trust. She could lose everything: her freedom, her empire, her legacy. The tragedy of this story lies not in Carly's malice, but in her love. A love so fierce it became destructive, a protection so absolute it turned into betrayal. As General Hospital moves into its next chapter, the question remains: how far can a mother go before her love becomes her undoing? In Port Charles, every secret has a cost, and Carly Spencer may have just paid the ultimate one.